Okay, you can order these online, telemedicine abortion. You know, you get on Zoom, you talk to a doctor. Sometimes they want an ultrasound, sometimes they do not. If they want an ultrasound, you have to be careful if you are in an anti-choice state, because once your pregnancy is confirmed, the state is watching you to see if you have a baby.
Wow.
Okay, so if you have an OBGYN that you trust, this is a wonderful thing. If you don't have an OBGYN in your community or a midwife in your community that you trust, find one. That's your task when you leave here today. These are the people who can do things like give you an ultrasound and confirm your pregnancy and won't report you to the state. Most of the people who are getting reported to the state for medication abortion or self-managed abortion they're being reported by nurses and doctors. The nurses and doctors cannot tell if you have taken these pills. Nobody knows if you've taken these. You do not tell anyone you've taken these pills if you are in an anti-choice state.
See, I told you the abortion pills are how they're trying to get around all of the abortion ban laws, and they literally train people on how to do. You're hearing it right now. If you live in a state where they don't allow abortion, you can still take these pills, and guess what? They don't know you've taken these pills, and don't go and get that ultrasound, because if you get that ultrasound, they're going to be watching to see if you have a baby. You should just take these pills. Just get them online. Just go online. Just talk to a doctor in another state. They'll ship them right to you. Just take these pills, and no one has to confirm it. Yeah, of course I was right about the pills. I've been tracking these abortion people for like 3 years. I just want to rewind and listen to this a little bit again.
Abortion pills put drugs on the market. It's extremely difficult to get a drug approved by the FDA. So the FDA will approve OxyContin, but they won't give us more abortion pills. Fuck that. So we can work on this issue in the US and get cheaper abortion pills. Okay, you can order these online, telemedicine abortion. You know, you get on Zoom, you talk to a doctor. Sometimes they want an ultrasound, sometimes they do not. If they want an ultrasound, you have to be careful if you are in an anti-choice state, because once your pregnancy is confirmed, the state is watching you to see if you have a baby. Okay, so if you have an OBGYN that you trust, this is a wonderful thing. If you don't have an OBGYN in your community or a midwife in your community that you trust, find one. That's your task when you leave here today. These are the people who can do things like give you an ultrasound and confirm your pregnancy and won't report you to the state. Most of the people who are getting reported to the state for medication abortion or self-managed abortion they're being reported by nurses and doctors. The nurses and doctors cannot tell if you have taken these pills. Nobody knows if you've taken these. You do not tell anyone you've taken these pills if you are in an anti-choice state. And if you are talking to somebody about these pills, make sure they know that. You just say you're having a miscarriage. It looks exactly the same. Okay, so inside this pack, there's 2 different sets of medications. The first medication is called mifepristone. It is a progesterone blocker. HRT, anybody? So it's going to end the pregnancy. Thank you for the question. Wonderful question. Progesterone is a hormone. And if you know anything about your menstrual cycle, your level of progesterone waxes and wanes throughout the month, which is why sometimes you feel like shit. But progesterone is essential for maintaining a pregnancy. So once your body has blocked the progesterone, the pregnancy just is done. It just ends inside the body, right? Mifepristone is also used for ectopic pregnancies occasionally. So if a pregnancy is not inside the uterus, maybe it has attached to the colon, maybe it has attached to the fallopian tube. This is a life-threatening thing, so they can use mifepristone to block the hormone. Once the mifepristone is taken with water, you just swallow it down. 36 hours maximum, 24 hours minimum. Is that usually what you about tell people? There's a ton of debate about when to take the mifepristone. But about 48 to 36 hours later, you would take these not you. A person seeking abortion might consider doing, the lawyers are very, very, are always warning us about this language. So a person who might be taking these pills, 48 to 36 hours later would use the misoprostol. The misoprostol is these 4 pills over here, and these are not swallowed. These are actually just placed in between the cheek and the gum, and they're left to dissolve. It takes about 30 minutes for them to dissolve. This second set of medication can sometimes give people chills. They might feel nauseous. Sometimes people are afraid of throwing up, so they'll insert these vaginally. But I don't recommend that because you need to get them very close to your cervix. And if you're not familiar with your anatomy in there, you might not place them exactly. You might not be as effective. So that's up to the individual. But these pills are either taken buccally in the cheek or vaginally. Probably about 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours after you take this medication, the cramping begins. And this is a process of the cervix dilating and the uterus emptying, which is not unlike your period. However, depending on how far along you are, your cervix may have to dilate quite a bit, and your uterus might have to do quite a bit of work to empty the contents of your uterus. So this is going to feel more than a heavy period, which is what Planned Parenthood sort of tells people. It's a heavy period. If you're only 6 weeks pregnant, it might kind of feel like a heavy period, but if you're 9 or 10 weeks pregnant, it's going to be a little bit more like early labor. If you've had a child, you would know what that means. If you've not had a child, it's going to kind of rock your world a little bit. So this is where a doula comes in. I bring a heating pad, I fill up the bathtub, I give people back rubs, I give them ice chips and cups of tea. We use combs and TENS machines to help manage the discomfort of this procedure. We take ibuprofen, we smoke weed. We do whatever we need to do. We get through it, right? The bleeding begins. The bleeding is usually more than people expect, but as long as you're not filling a super overnight pad, right? You know those big thick ones that go like all the way from your butt crack all the way to the top of your underpants? If you're filling one of those in less than an hour, 2 hours in a row, it's too much bleeding. Gushing is kind of expected and normal. Most people will sit on the toilet while this is happening, but it can also happen in a bathtub. Some people who are interested in collecting their fetal tissue, either for some sort of disposal or grief ceremony, will sometimes even just be in their living room with like a shower curtain on the ground to sort of catch everything. This is very much like a home birth, if anybody has ever seen or been exposed to the home birth movement. This is just the idea that like we are safe to experience reproductive events in our own homes, and that this doesn't need to be observed by anyone that we don't want observing it, because this is our abortion, our body, our reproduction.
Oh my God.
So every person is different. But usually this process takes about 2-3 days to just
2 or 3 days?
Stop your intense bleeding and be ready to just sort of be a normal
You bleed for
person
2 or 3 days?
But once it's over, it's over. You can take a pregnancy test as you are like finishing up your procedure and sort of see what that line on that pregnancy test looks like. And then in a few days or a few weeks, you take another pregnancy test and see if the line looks more faded than it did before. As the weeks go by, the line on the pregnancy test should fade and get lighter and lighter and lighter. That's how you know you're not pregnant anymore. It takes 6 weeks for your body to sort of get the pregnancy hormones out. So you'll still get a positive pregnancy test for up to 6 weeks after an abortion. But if you want to make sure that your abortion is complete, before that happens, you can always seek a healthcare provider to give you an ultrasound and make sure that your uterus is totally emptied. A few other things to look out for with self-managed abortion other than just too much bleeding. And listen, as a birth doula, I see people bleed, right? When you're thinking about bleeding, is it too much bleeding? How much bleeding is too much bleeding? Ask the person how they feel. If someone feels lightheaded, dizzy, clammy, if they're looking gray in the face, it's too much bleeding, right? But if someone's bleeding a lot and you're like, how do you feel? And they're like, I feel fine, I don't know, right? Do you need to go to the emergency room if you feel fine? I don't know. So infection, is always a risk, so we want to look out for signs of infection. This means bad smelling discharge, a fever, a sensation of burning. Sometimes people will advise you to keep things like sex toys and penises out of your vagina for 10 days after you have an abortion. Some people don't care. That's up to you, because this is your abortion, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's self-managed abortion. It's not really pretty process, but it gets the job done. And it gets it done really effectively, really privately. And sometimes people like to have candles and fairy lights and affirmation cards.
Candles
and honestly make
fairy
it
lights.
An event. So don't be afraid to have an abortion party.
Oh!
Thanks for listening.
Don't be afraid to have an abortion party with candles and fairy lights. You know, I said this after I went undercover at the Reproductive Justice Conference, where, by the way, I went on a self-managed abortion tour at that conference where I was taught about abortion doulas. They showed me an abortion shrine that you go to worship at, which is not about the dead baby, by the way. It's about worshiping yourself after you have... I said this after I went undercover at that thing. There is nothing that has ever come closer to making me pro-life than listening to abortion rights activists talk about having a self-managed abortion. That was unbelievable. Rottweiler, thank you for the member chat. I've seen victims of cartels here, shootout aftermaths, yet this is making me feel sick. No joke. This is genuinely horrible. That's what it felt like to be undercover at the Reproductive Justice Conference. I swear to God. That's what it felt like. And yeah, I mean, she talked about having an abortion party at the end. Listen, they said, when I was on that self-managed abortion tour, they said, you know, you should use this as a celebratory moment to celebrate yourself. That's why they had a shrine after you had your abortion. It was not about, you know, the baby or whatever. It was about literally worshiping yourself and celebrating yourself. That is the mindset of these people. It is so gross. It is so gross on so many levels, but that is... I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm horrified at what we just heard. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, but it's also like, I'm actually glad to have a recording of this because I didn't get that recorded on audio when I went undercover at that event. You just had to rely on like my photographs and me telling you about it. But like to actually hear it said, like, oh my God, these people are nuts. Thank you, Melody. I do appreciate it. Wow. Well, I think that's going to do it for today, guys. I think that's about all I can take. I don't think we can listen to that other abortion session right now. I don't want to keep going. I need to decompress from that, and I think you probably do too. And I'm going to clip that and I'm going to put that out because we see a lot of crazy stuff covering the left. We listen to a lot of crazy stuff. There is nothing more disturbing than when the pro-abortion people tell you what they really think. There is nothing more disturbing. And one of the things that was so striking to me about that clip was, did you hear how silent the room was? You could hear a pin drop in that room as she was describing the process of taking these pills and, you know, bleeding your child out, and hey, maybe you have a bath and maybe you do it. And it's no different than a home birth, guys. Yes, it is different. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is different. I don't know how it's almost inhuman. Like it is. I don't use this terminology often, and people know that. Like it is demonic. And it's hard for me to describe if you've never been in a room with these people. And again, I was in a room with them for I went undercover for an entire day at this thing that I went to, and the energy of it, it just, there's even at other socialist events that I've gone undercover at, there is something truly dark about the abortion stuff. And it sticks with you, man. Like, I haven't heard something like this in a while. And I'm glad we did get it on record. I'm glad we got the recording. I'm glad we got that. I'm glad other people heard it and it wasn't just me sitting in a room with these people. But it's just something else. It really is just something else. And it was just audio. All we had was the audio. We didn't even see the device that she pulled out to just, I mean, it's just like, man. I can never be in a room with these people. I'm not capable of having a strong... It was tough, man. Do you guys remember that video I made after, like, right after I got out of the conference? Do you guys want to watch that real quick? Do you guys remember this video? I don't even know if I don't even know where it is. Hang on, I can find it probably real quick. Do you guys remember how freaked out I was about this when it happened? If you're new, like, let's just watch this real quick. I can find it. It's on my Substack. I know I uploaded it there. Hang on. Let me show you guys. This was the video of me that I basically ran to my car at the... Oh, look at me. I look crazy. Like, I actually look fucking crazy. Look at that. Like, I was at this conference all day with these people, and I ran to my car, and I just took out my phone, and I was just like, here's what happened. You guys are not going to believe this. You are not going to believe this. I just spent a full day with, like, 250 socialists at a day-long socialist conference at Hampshire College. I got here like 8:30 this morning. It's what, like 6 o'clock now? I'm wrapping up, about to drive home. I was like undercover. I had to wear a mask and everything. They thought I was one of them. You are not going to effing believe the things that I heard today. You guys think the socialists are crazy online? No. No. No, 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 no. They are next level insane when they think they're only around people who agree with them. None of the clips that you have ever seen from Libs of TikTok is more than what I saw today. I promise you that. I promise you. Now, I didn't record it. I couldn't record it. But I have lots of pictures. I took like 25 pages worth of notes. I have so much literature that I got at the conference. I have like a 4-page pamphlet of every single trans book directed at elementary school kids. I got to go on a tour of how you self-manage your abortion. And did you know that when you self-manage your abortion, it's nice to have a nice cup of tea and a warm bed that you can relax in? And oh, by the way, an abortion doula that will sit next to you while you're on the toilet bleeding out the child. And mind you, I'm pro-choice, but I'm not this pro-choice. They actually recommended getting an abortion doula to hold your hand as you are sitting on the toilet bleeding from self-managing your abortion. If I had gotten to the self-managed abortion tour earlier in the day, I could have gotten a free t-shirt with the names of the pills that you take to self-manage your abortion. And by the way, the toilet is not the last stop on the self-managed abortion tour. The shrine with crystals and candles where you take care of yourself and your spiritual needs following the self-managed abortion is the last stop on the tour. I've got pictures of all of this. I realized I was in one breakout session, and I realized while I was in the breakout session
that the woman leading the session had blocked me on Twitter, which was hilarious. Thank God I was wearing a mask. I almost burst out laughing. I was also in a session with the woman who runs the Institute for the Research into Male Supremacy. And that session was a trip, man. I was sitting in that session and I looked around the room and there were all these college students, these gender studies majors. They all had shaved heads, unshaved legs, unshaved armpits, the whole nine. I have never been around this many socialists in my life. I was like, I am quite literally in an episode of Socialism Saturday right now. I am in the episode. And I almost burst out laughing in the middle of the session because it was so absurd. And the things they were saying were so insane. I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. I really can't. But I had to post this quick update. I have to drive home. If you want to hear more about it, I will be tackling it. I will show you all my pictures.
And that's pretty much the end of the video. But like, you can actually find all my pictures. And let's just go back. I'll just quickly scroll through. You can find all this stuff on my Substack, guys. It's Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Go to the How to Speak Socialist section. This was actually the start of the How to Speak Socialist section. So just scroll all the way down to the bottom. And I'll just show you real quick. These are the pictures from the self-managed abortion tour. So you can see, like, this is the lady that gave it, and you know, they brought you through all the different parts of having a self-managed abortion, and there's lots of socialist stuff all around, and you know, here is the bathroom where you bleed your child out, and they had a sign about an abortion doula, and there's the shrine. There's the shrine where you worship yourself after having the self-managed abortion. There's a little bit of a close-up of the shrine. And actually, I have another picture of that too, because I think I wrote an article about how these people basically, I guess I didn't put it in here. I wrote an article about how these people basically made me pro-choice. Like, not pro-choice, like very pro-life. Now, listen, I am still pro-choice because I think that women, again, who are raped, they need to have options, and I don't see that happening a lot of the time. Well, I mean, obviously, like, if you're raped, you wouldn't have options if abortion was banned. But like, you know, in the sense that, like, would I ever personally get an abortion? No, not after being around these people. Like, that is not a choice I would make. But literally, the point I want to make, and I have a closer up picture of this, is this symbol right here where it looks like it has a face with the woman's hands over it. The wording on this, if we zoom into it, actually, can I just zoom into it? Can I just do that here? I guess I can't really see it in this picture. But the language on this thing literally talks about how you are worshiping yourself at this shrine. So people asked me, they were like, "Oh, is this about worshiping the child?" No. This specifically is about worshiping yourself after you have your abortion. These people are crazy. And if you're shocked, you know, you're not alone. If this was hard for you to listen to, you're not alone. But I do think it's important that people understand this. I think it's important that people understand that this is real. These people are real. And it doesn't, you know, just because Roe v. Wade got repealed, they just told you that abortion pills are their answer to Roe v. Wade getting repealed. Abortion pills are their answer to, like, states banning abortion. I have them on video in other sessions talking about how they're going to smuggle these abortion pills into states where it's banned. I mean, and they had that all set up before Roe v. Wade even got repealed. And the reason I know that is that we caught them on video talking about it before Roe v. Wade got repealed years ago on this channel. So people have been around for a while. Maybe you remember that. If you're new, you might not. So, yeah. It's crazy. And I don't think enough people understand it. And it is very, very dark. And so I'm going to go relax now.